Please make Melanie welcome.
Hello. Hi. How's it going? It's good. I hope you enjoyed your mango snacks. If you had what I had, they're very good. Let's start with some questions. Who am I? Where am I from? Who let me in this barn? What is Python? I feel like we should know the answer to a couple of those already. But I am Melanie Arbor, as was previously mentioned. I am from this place. I made these critters. I am partnered with this fella, and I probably love this animal too much. So that was San Diego, my two teenish children, my partner Trey Hunter, and my cat Joffe, who is the cutest and the best. I'm sorry, other barn kitties. You're very good. You're just getting beat out. It's fine. All right, we are here to talk about comprehensions. We are also going to talk about the fun cake adventures I've had over the years because I like cake, and I like code, and I like pithy word mashups. So that's what we're doing. So we're going to start at the beginning. Not because I've looked at your sweet faces and made some sort of assumptions about your intellectual prowess, but rather that assumptions make assumpts out of tea and ions. So in the beginning, there were for loops. Comprehensions are the cousins of for loops. They're the strange, confusing, scary cousins that you hid from at your family reunions. In my family, their name was Jessica because everyone was named Jessica in the 90s. But you know, sometimes the Jessicas of our lives grow up and are pretty cool, and they open Etsy shops, and they're able to pull off that wolf cut like Sylvie from the Loki television show. You know what I'm saying? Maybe comprehensions are like that. For example, if we have a list called Days When I Thought Sylvie Was Cool, it has Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, because apparently Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday I am confused. So the days that I thought Sylvie was cool, and we're gonna make a list and put Sylvie is so cool for each of the days in the list when I thought Sylvie was cool, right? It would look like this. If we wanted to make a list of Sylvie is so cool on day in our list using a comprehension, I mean, why wouldn't we? It could look like this. It can be argued that our Jessica Sylvie for loop cousin style might be more succinct and more readable in some circumstances. They can be argued. Like, we don't need to die on this hill. That's ridiculous. But here we go. Ready for more? Of course you are. Yes, I love the audience participation. That's very on brand for me, so keep it going. Okay, so first we're gonna make some cakes. We've got a cake class, so we're gonna pretend that we set this up. We've got a name, a flavor, and an author. And then we're gonna make some super tasty, amazing, storied cakes. So we've got a Padre Hotel cake. We've got a depression cake and a chocolate orbit cake, and then we're gonna assume that we made some others as well. Okay, cake break one. Told you there was gonna be cake stories. So one of the first tiered cakes I made was like for Halloween or something with my friend Jill, and we decided that we were gonna make like a cake replica of the Padre Hotel, which is a hotel in Bakersfield where I lived at the time. And it was like the first tiered cake I make, so sometimes the first one that you do is not awesome. I don't know if you've had this experience. But there were like cake bits that got stuck in the pan, and then all the tiers were like not right. And so then we were like, let's take these crumbs and jam them in there, and they'll be cake supports. And then it turns out when you pour the frosting, all the cake supports just blob out. And we made these cool choking hazard ladders made out of toothpicks. It was a scary hot mess. Happy Halloween. All right, so moving on. Let's pop the cakes that we made in a list and make a for loop. We're gonna start there using these buddies. So a question first. Why don't we do this? Why don't we start with an empty list and then take each of the things in our previous list and append it to it? Anyone? Are you thinking about it? I see those eyes. We're working on it. All right. So it's because if we're going to take a list and just loop over it, put all the same stuff in a new list, we should just use Python's like the copy method or the list constructor. That's what we would use for that. When we use for loops or comprehensions, we use those when we want to make something slightly different than what we started with. Okay, if you want to change items as you build up a list or filter them out, that's when we use our for loops and our comprehensions, which is what we're talking about. So in our case, what we're going to do is grab the name of the cake. So for a for loop, it would look something like this: order equals empty list. So for cake in display case, order.append cake.name, right? Okay, let's turn this into a comprehension. We're going to take that empty list and build it up together. So the first thing that we need to know when we write a comprehension is what we want, okay? So what do we want? Audience participation. What do we want? Cake. That's right. And when do we want it? Now. As we loop over the iterable that we created moments ago as part of our example. I couldn't think of a snappy way to say that. So the first thing we want to put in a comprehension is what we want. But remember, we don't just want the cake instance, we want its name. So we start with order equals cake.name. Okay. Next, we need to know where these cakes are. That's the second thing I think about. The first one is what I want. The second is where it exists. So in our case, the cakes are in the display case variable, right? So the next step is this: order equals cake.name in display case. Perfect. We're done. Almost. Does anyone see what we're missing? Yes, for cake, exactly. A comprehension needs all of the same things a for loop needs. So we've got cake.name in display case for, well, let's rewind that. Okay, order equals cake.name for cake in display case. All right? Huzzah, there we have it. So again, what we want at the beginning, where it is at the end, the 4-bit smashed right in the middle. And now for blue, which is not at all part of my slides. And now for stripes. And now for back on track. All right. Okay, and this is what our order looks like after we use our list comprehension. Cake break 2. Does anyone know what a depression cake is? Yes, a couple. It is not the cake that I eat when I'm depressed, because I would be eating that cake all the time. I'm kidding, kind of. If anyone wants to talk about mental health later, come see me. Depression cake is a delicious, indulgent cake made from a recipe that was written in the Great Depression. So it doesn't have any eggs, milk, or butter, because those ingredients were on short supply and therefore very expensive. Without the eggs, you need some kind of like leavening agent, right? This cake uses baking soda and vinegar, which sounds more like something you'd clean your garbage disposal with than a tasty snack, but you'll just have to trust me that it's really pretty good. It also ends up being accidentally vegan, so if you would like to reduce your suffering that you bring into the world, ta-da! Do you see how I mixed my morals in there? Just real quick, slipped them right in? Because that's what, I'm a sneaky week. That's what they call that. That's the name for it. Okay, moving on. Let's say our bakery is having a BOGO sale, as they call it. Buy one, get one. So now we want, say it with me, 2 cakes. Very good. And so that is going to be the first thing that we put in our comprehension, right? What we want. So we're going to start our comprehension with this F string, 2cake.name. It's kind of hard to say. Anyway, and where are these cakes? They're in the display case. So we want 2cake.names in display case, and then finally we jam the for part right in the middle like a delicious filling. All right, so order equals 2 cake.names for cake in display case. Perfect. So good. So something to think about here. Comprehensions are often written on one line. I find this a little bit confusing. So many times I like to write them, as you've been seeing them, over many lines. It's just because it helps me think through what I'm doing better, and that's what the whole talk is about, is giving mental anchors so that it's easier for you to write comprehensions and for me to write comprehensions. So that's where this came from. I also write them like this a lot of times, with the for and the in part on one line. If you're using an auto formatter like Black or something else, it might, as you write it like this, pop it all back on one line, and that's okay. It's okay to use this just to work through it, right? It's just a tool. These are tools. They're all valid. They're all going to work the same way. Let's get picky now. In for loops, not only can we take an iterable and change the items, put them in a new list or iterable or whatever, we can also do so conditionally. So in a comprehension, we can do the same thing. We start with what we want, 2 cake.names. Where are they? They're in the display case. We jam that for bit in there, and then we're done. No, we're not. That has too many cakes in it. We want to add that at the order, we only want it if the cake.flavor is equal to chocolate. I kind of like to think about that as something that we almost forgot to add to our order. Like, we want 2 of everything, but only if it's chocolate, because I'm very picky. It's like I'm 4. And so you get 2 depression cakes, 2 chocolate orbit cakes. You ready to get even fancier? Of course you. Yes, exactly, because you are fancy pansy, that's what they call you. So, and that reminds me of one of the best cakes I've ever made. This is David Leibowitz's chocolate orbit cake, and it was elevated a little bit by Stephanie Shee. She also took this photo. It's a flourless chocolate cake with Lady Grey, white chocolate, creme anglaise, and candied orange peel. You can see how this might be tasty. It is one of my favorite things that I've ever baked. It is not vegan at all, but one day I'll figure out how to do that, and then my oven will glow with the glory of perfection. Okay, back to our fancy biz code. Let's make a dictionary comprehension. Let's say that our bakery takes all the cakes that they have and they put them in the display case. So there's not like extra cakes in the back, like what you see is what you get. So we could represent this in a dictionary. They have 1 Padre Hotel cake, 2 depression cakes, etc. They have 10 of the chocolate orbit cake. I just told you it's so good, right? They know. We can represent this scenario in this dictionary. And first, if we're going to do a dictionary comprehension, we're going to just get the names of the cakes and the number of the cakes in the display case. So that's right. We're going to buy all of the cake. This call and response thing is going to fall apart, but I hope you remember in your heart how fun it was and you tell your friends. Okay, so what do we want? Yes, that. Also, we want the name of the cake, and we want that to be the key, and then the value we want to be the number of cakes in the display case. So order equals cake.name, quantity. That's the shape of the thing that we want to get back. Going back to our recipe, we put what we want at the beginning and where they are at the end. So where are these items? They're in the display case, right? And now we need that delicious for filling, but instead of just for cake, we want to represent the values that are in the original dictionary. So it's going to be for cake, comma, quantity. So cake.name, quantity for cake, comma, quantity in display case inventory. Perfect. We're missing one thing here. If we try to run this code, we will get a type error. And that's because when Python loops over a dictionary, it only loops over the keys, not the key value pairs. So we need to append items, and then it'll go through and get both. So there we go. This is for getting everything in the whole thing. But let's say we want to order almost all the cake, but we're gonna leave like one cake for other people because we're nice. So what do we want? We want cake.name, quantity -1 for each of the cakes available. That's the shape of the dictionary that we want back. And the cakes are in the display case, so that goes on the bottom. We jam in that for cake, comma, quantity right in the middle. Oh, but let's not forget, we only want them if there are more than 2 cakes available, and that way there will still be cake for other cake-loving humans out there. Cake break. One time, I was making a lemon cake for a party, and we had someone with celiac disease there, and we had someone that was vegan there. And I could have made like one gluten-free cake and one like cruelty-free cake, but I was like, what if I just combine these 2 hard things into one thing by getting other recipes and mashing them together, because I've done this kind of stuff before. So I made this beautiful thing. Look how cute. It's like stacked up. Yeah, exactly. Look at the little twisty stuff. I did that, put some rosemary on there. Also, it tasted a little bit like solidified grainy glue in your mouth. It was gross. I don't recommend it. And that leads us to the last stop on the tour de Cakeprehension, which is nested comprehensions. We have gone cake crazy. We are Godzillas eating all the cake in town. Okay, some of you are thinking that is not Godzilla. Godzilla is a lizard. I know that. I was told that. I don't care because it should be Godzilla, because Godzilla, gorilla, like you don't think Godzilla lizard. Anyway, so we're cake Godzillas, let me tell you. And we're eating all the cake in town. So first we're gonna make some bakeries. We've got, the bakeries have a name, a display case, which is a list of cakes, right? And an address. There we go. Turns out Petaluma has some tasty treats out there. So these are actual bakeries. The Stellina Pronto, which I'm going to try to go to tomorrow morning. I don't know what this other one is, but Google does. So, and then the Costo is actually attached to Hotel Petaluma, and I got a lovely coffee from them today. And I had a sparkling conversation about someone's rash, which sounds worse than it was. What a nice little guy. All right. So let's put these bakeries in a list. And then we're going to create an order with a for loop first. So we make our empty list for bakery and bakeries, for cake in bakery.display case, order append one cake.name. That's what it looks like as a for loop. So as a comprehension, what do we want? One cake. Yes, there we go. Now, where do the cakes exist? Everywhere. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. So just a second. Things are gonna get weird. So the recipe that we've been using up to now doesn't work quite as awesome with nested comprehensions. So here's a couple other mental anchors. 1, big to little. 2, just like a for loop. Both, because it's confusing, so take your pick. All right, so we've got what we want, which is the cake name, and in bakery.display case, because that's where they are. We usually put in a 4-bit, so there it is, hello. But we need the bakeries, not just the cakes, right? So we'll put that there above it. And then we're gonna shove in this for bakery part. Look at that little buddy. So there it is. Hopefully you can see what I was saying earlier, big to small with the bakery and the cakes, or just like a for loop, it works in the exact same order that you would write it as a for loop. Nested comprehensions are a little bit awkward because they don't read like English, and that's kind of like what I like about Python in a lot of ways, that it does read very English-like. This is kind of a stumbling of things. So There we go. But it gets worse, or better, or different. I don't even know at this point. But hold on to your buns. It's a baking joke. Let's say we only want to go to lucky bakeries. So we make this list comprehension. Bakery for bakeries, bakery in bakeries. If 7 is in the bakery address, obviously that makes it lucky. I don't make up the rules. So then when we make our order, we're going to say cake.name for bakery in lucky bakeries, not just in any bakery, for cake in bakery.displaycase. But hey, we could also just shove that thing right in there, right? Instead of making a variable, we can just put that right in there. Now we've got cake.name in that comprehension right there for cake in bakery.displaycase, if chocolate in the flavor. So we've got a whole lot going on. But also, you don't even need to do it like that. You can just shove that if in an unexpected area, even though you shouldn't shove things in unexpected places. You can put the if between 2 4s in a comprehension. It does what we want. It's a wee bit awkward. Don't stop holding them buns, because it's going to get weirder. You can make this dictionary comprehension, where the value in the dictionary is a list comprehension, right? There we go. Yucky, gross. But it gives us what we were looking for, so hey. And now look at this horrendous thing. What is it? I mean, but we do know, right? What do we want? Cake.name. So we want, and it's a colon. And it's right at the top, it's a dictionary. We see that. So cake.name, and then the value is going to be 20 if chocolate in cake.flavor, else 1. What? But that, you can do that. You can do a one-line conditional in yep, you can do that. So you can put an inline conditional in a comprehension. You can write it. Just like you can change lanes without your indicator, but no one will like you for that. So before I go, let's talk about the why of comprehensions again. What might make us reach for them over a for loop? Well, let's look at this for loop. Cakes per bakery. It's a dictionary for bakery and bakeries. We can read it, right? It takes a little bit of mental work, but we can read it. But if we look at the same thing as a comprehension, we see right away it's a dictionary, right? Cakes per bakery, it's telling me it's a dictionary. It tells me also that the key is bakery.name, and then we have a list, right? So I know I'm getting a dictionary with the bakery's name as the key and a list as the values. It can be pretty readable, and like I said, the beginning, there might be some options where it is more readable, in fact, than our for loop. Once you get to know comprehensions, you can tell what you're getting right away, just like you know what you're going to get with Jessica. And it turns out that Jessica's pretty great. This is just the beginning. There are loads that you can do with comprehensions in Python, and this is just the base recipe. But hopefully this will get you going with all the Cakeprehensions you have in your future.